My sister stole my wedding venue for her own big day, so I sent her fiancé the messages she'd been sending to her backup plan. It started when I showed Bree the rustic barn I'd booked for my October wedding. 200 guests, string lights, the works. I'd put down a $5,000 non-refundable deposit 14 months in advance. She gushed about how perfect it was, how romantic, how she wished she'd thought of it first. 3 weeks later, she announced her engagement. To Clayton, a guy she'd been dating for 6 months. Mom threw her an impromptu party that weekend. I congratulated her, hugged Clayton, and asked about their plans. "Oh, we're thinking next fall," Bree said casually. "Plenty of time to plan." My wedding was in 7 months. The venue called me 2 days later. "We have a situation," the coordinator said carefully. "Your sister contacted us. She's offering double your deposit to move your date and take October 12th. My blood went cold. "She can't do that. I have a contract." "She claims there's been a family emergency, that you agreed to switch dates." A pause. "Did you?" "Absolutely not." But the damage was done. Bree had already told our entire family I was being selfish, that she and Clayton needed to marry quickly for insurance reasons, that I was ruining her chance at happiness over a date. When I called her, she was crying. "I thought you'd understand. You're my sister. Can't you just pick a different month? I've sent invitations, made deposits. My dress is being altered." "Well, I've already told Clayton's family October 12th. I can't take it back now." That's when I noticed something odd. Bree kept texting during our call, giggling at her phone. I hung up and opened Instagram. She'd posted a photo of the barn. My barn. Caption: "Can't wait to marry my soulmate here." The comments were flooded with congratulations. No one mentioned I was supposed to get married there first. I spent that night unable to sleep. Something felt wrong. Bree had always been competitive, but this was different. The next morning, I did something I'm not proud of. I grabbed her phone while she was in the shower at Mom's house. Her passcode was still her birthday. The messages to Damien went back 4 months, before her engagement. "Can't wait until I'm free of this. Clayton's loaded. Just need to secure the ring first. You're my real future. He's just the bank account." Hundreds of messages, photos, plans for after the wedding. She was using Clayton for money while planning a life with someone else. The wedding was just a performance, a way to access his family's wealth before the inevitable divorce she'd already mapped out with her lawyer friend. I took screenshots. Every single one. That evening, I created a burner email and sent everything to Clayton. No message, just the truth. Then I waited. Clayton called off the engagement 3 days later, publicly, on Facebook, with receipts. The family exploded. Bree claimed I'd fabricated everything, that I was jealous and vindictive. Mom called me crying. Dad said I'd destroyed our family over a venue. She was scamming him, I said. That was between them. Mom snapped. You had no right. But here's what nobody knew. Clayton's father owned the company that employed my dad. And Clayton's mother sat on the board of the charity where Mom volunteered. And Clayton's sister was the family lawyer who'd handled my grandmother's estate. By revealing Bree's plan, I'd just nuked every connection our family had to the most powerful network in our town. The fallout started immediately. Dad got a meeting request from HR. Mom's charity position was reevaluated, and the family lawyer sent a formal letter about the estate distribution. Then yesterday, Bree showed up at my apartment. Her eyes were different, cold. "You think you won?" she said quietly. She dropped a folder on my table. Inside were documents I'd never seen, property deeds, bank statements, all in my name. "Damien works in forensic accounting," she said. "Guess what we've been building?" My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. My signature on loan applications I'd never filled out. Credit cards opened in my name. A mortgage on a property in Nevada I'd never heard of. Tax documents showing income I'd never earned. "That's identity theft," I whispered. Bree smiled. "Prove it. Those are your signatures, your social security number, your driver's license information." She leaned against my counter like she owned the place. "Damien's very talented. He spent 6 months learning every detail about you, how you sign your name, your banking habits, even the slight slant in your handwriting when you're tired." "Why?" "Insurance," she said simply. "I knew you'd interfere eventually, you always do, so we prepared." I looked at the dates. The first document was from 8 months ago, before her engagement to Clayton, before any of this started. "You planned this from the beginning." "I planned for every possibility." She picked up one of the documents. "Right now, you owe $847,000 in outstanding debt. The IRS has questions about unreported income, and there's an active investigation into mortgage fraud tied to that Nevada property." She paused. Unless what? "Unless you fix this. Call Clayton. Tell him you made everything up, that you doctored those messages because you were jealous. Apologize publicly. Convince him to take me back." I laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. "You're insane. Even if I wanted to, he'd never believe me now." "Then you better be very convincing." Bree headed for the door. "You have 48 hours. After that, Damien files the evidence with the authorities. And you?" She smiled over her shoulder. "You'll spend the next decade in prison for fraud." The door closed. I stood there, staring at the documents spread across my table. My entire life, weaponized against me. I called my fiancé first. "We need to talk." Trevor arrived within the hour. I showed him everything. The documents. Bree's threat. All of it. "This is blackmail," he said, reading through the pages. "We call the police." "With what proof?" "These look real." "She's right. Those are perfect forgeries of my signature." "Then we get a lawyer." With what money? Our wedding budget is maxed out. We've put down deposits on everything. I felt my throat tighten. Trevor, this could destroy us. He pulled me close. Then we fight back. But fighting required resources we didn't have. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about how Bree had orchestrated everything. The engagement to Clayton wasn't about love or money. It was bait. She knew I'd investigate, knew I'd find the messages, knew I'd expose her. She wanted me to. The next morning, I drove to Clayton's office. His assistant tried to stop me, but I pushed past. I need 5 minutes, I said. Clayton looked up from his desk. His face was hard. You've got 3. Bree's blackmailing me. I laid out the documents, explained everything. He listened without interrupting. Why should I believe you? He asked when I finished. You already proved you'll do anything to hurt her. I didn't hurt her. I saved you. I met his eyes. But I need you to know something. This was her plan all along. The engagement, the venue theft, my reaction. She orchestrated everything. To what end? To create leverage. She knew I'd expose her. She wanted me to. Now she has me trapped, and she's using it to force me to recant. To make you believe I fabricated everything. Clayton was quiet for a long moment. What do you want from me? Help. You're a lawyer. Your family has resources. I need to know if these documents would hold up. He took the folder. I'll have my forensic team look at them, but I'm not promising anything. That's all I'm asking. I left his office with a tiny spark of hope. 2 days later, Clayton called. We need to meet. Bring your fiancé. We met at his family's law firm. Clayton sat across from us, his expression unreadable. My team analyzed the documents. They're good, professionally done, but they found something. He slid a report across the table. The signatures are too perfect. When you sign your name, there are natural variations. Micro tremors, pressure points. These signatures are identical, down to the pixel. Meaning they were created digitally, probably scanned from real signatures you made, then copied and pasted onto the documents. It's sophisticated, but it's detectable. Trevor grabbed my hand. So they're fake. Provably fake, Clayton confirmed. But here's the problem. The accounts exist. The loans exist. Someone actually executed these transactions using your sister's information. The forgeries are just the paper trail. My stomach dropped. So I'm still liable? Potentially. Unless we can prove who actually created the accounts. Clayton leaned forward. I'm going to ask you something, and I need complete honesty. Do you want revenge, or do you want this to go away? I want my life back. Then we do this carefully, quietly. My family has certain resources. We can make these accounts disappear. Clean up your credit. Make it like none of this ever existed. In exchange for what? In exchange for you walking away. No police reports, no charges against your sister, no public exposure. I felt Trevor tense beside me. That's not justice. No, Clayton agreed. It's survival. Because if this goes public, even if your sister goes to jail, the damage to your reputation will be permanent. Financial institutions will blacklist you. Employers will question you. Your wedding? He shook his head. Postponed at minimum, canceled at worst. She can't get away with this, I said. She already has. Clayton's voice was cold. The question is whether you're willing to let her take you down with her. I thought about my wedding, my future with Trevor, the life we'd been planning. What about Bree? She just wins? She thinks she's won. That's different. Something dark flickered across Clayton's face. You exposed her. My family knows what she is now. Trust me when I say, that has consequences. I didn't ask what he meant. 3 days later, every fraudulent account in my name was closed. The debt vanished. My credit report showed no trace of the identity theft. It was like Bree's blackmail had never existed, except I knew it had. Bree called that evening. I'm impressed. I didn't think you'd go running to Clayton. Her voice was tight. But it doesn't matter. You still ruined everything. You ruined it yourself. No, I had a plan. A good one. And you destroyed it because you're petty and jealous. I'm neither of those things. Then what are you? Done. I hung up. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. The next week, Bree's apartment was raided by the FBI. Turns out, Damien wasn't just a forensic accountant. He was under investigation for running a massive identity theft ring. And Bree, she was his accomplice. The documents she'd shown me weren't just about blackmailing me. They were evidence of a much larger operation. When Clayton's team had analyzed the forgeries, they'd found digital fingerprints linking them to Damien's other crimes. Clayton's family had contacts in federal law enforcement. They'd turned over everything. Bree called me from jail hysterical. You did this. You set me up. I didn't set you up. You set yourself up when you decided to commit federal crimes. I need bail money. I need a lawyer. Mom and Dad won't help me. That's not my problem. Please, I'm your sister. You stopped being my sister when you tried to destroy my life. I hung up. The trial took 6 months. Bree and Damien were both convicted. Identity theft, wire fraud, conspiracy. Bree got 8 years. Damien got 12. My parents blamed me, said I should have protected her, should have been the bigger person. Dad actually said, she's family. You don't send family to prison. She sent herself to prison, I replied. I just didn't stop her. We haven't spoken since. My wedding happened in November. Different venue, smaller guest list. Just the people who actually mattered. Clayton came, surprisingly. I wanted to see you happy, he said. After everything, thank you for your help. I didn't do it for you. He looked away. I did it because your sister taught me something important. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Trevor and I honeymooned in Iceland. When we got back, there was a letter waiting from Bree. I almost threw it away. But curiosity got the better of me. The letter was long, rambling, full of justifications and excuses. But one paragraph stood out. You always had everything. Mom and Dad's approval, perfect grades, the perfect fiancé. I was always second, always less. The wedding venue was supposed to be mine, just one thing that was mine first. But you couldn't even let me have that. I read it 3 times, then I burned it. Because here's what Bree never understood. I didn't have everything. I worked for everything. While she was partying, I was studying. While she was dating guys for their money, I was building a real relationship. While she was scheming, I was planning. She thought life was something you took from other people. I knew it was something you built yourself. 3 years passed. Trevor and I bought a house, started talking about kids, built a quiet, happy life. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Bree was up for early release. Good behavior, apparently. I didn't think much about it until she showed up at my door. She looked different, thinner, older. Her eyes had lost that calculating gleam. I know you don't want to see me, she said, but I needed to say something in person. I'm not interested in apologies. It's not an apology, not really. She took a breath. I destroyed my life trying to compete with you. And the worst part? You weren't even competing. You were just living. I didn't see that until it was too late. What do you want, Bree? Nothing. I just wanted you to know that I finally get it. You didn't win. I lost. There's a difference. She turned to leave. Wait, she stopped. What are you going to do now? I asked. Figure out who I am when I'm not trying to be better than you. She smiled, sad and small. If I can. I watched her walk away. Part of me felt satisfied, vindicated. But another part, a small part, felt something else. Not quite pity, not quite sympathy. Just awareness that we'd both been trapped in a game neither of us had chosen to play. 2 years later, I was pregnant with our first child when I got a text from an unknown number. Congratulations! She's beautiful. Followed by a photo. I was walking out of my OBGYN appointment, hand on my belly. My blood ran cold. Was Bree stalking me? Then another message. Don't worry, I'm not here to cause problems. Just wanted you to see something. An attachment. A photo of Bree. She was clean, sober, working at what looked like a community center. She was teaching a class. The sign behind her read, Financial Literacy for Women, Breaking Cycles. The text continued. She's been clean for 16 months. Works with women leaving abusive relationships. Teaches them how to rebuild their credit. How to spot financial abuse, how to protect themselves. A pause in the messages. She talks about you sometimes, about how she almost became everything she now helps women escape from. Who is this? I typed back. Her parole officer. She doesn't know I'm contacting you, but I thought you should know. She's doing the work, real work. I stared at the phone for a long time, then I saved the number. Thanks for letting me know. I didn't reach out to Bree, but I didn't delete the photo either. Maybe someday, maybe not. That wasn't really the point. The point was that we'd both survived. We'd both changed. And we'd both learned that the only person you can really compete with is yourself. My daughter was born in April. We named her Grace. Because if there's anything I learned from everything with Bree, it's that grace isn't about what people deserve. It's about what we choose to give. But the story doesn't end there. Because life never ties up that neatly. Not really. 6 months after Grace was born, I was at the grocery store when I saw her. Bree. She was in the produce section comparing apples. She looked good, healthy. Her hair was different, shorter. She was wearing scrubs, like she'd just come from work. Our eyes met. She froze. I could see her calculating whether to run or stay. I made the decision for both of us. I pushed my cart forward. Hi, I said. Hi. Her voice was quiet, uncertain. The apples are better on the bottom, I said, pointing. Less bruised. She laughed, short and surprised. Thanks. We stood there for a moment. 2 sisters who'd destroyed each other, now standing in a grocery store like normal people. I heard you're doing well, I said. Teaching classes. Her face went red. My parole officer contacted you. I told her not to. I'm glad she did. Bree looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in years. I'm not looking for forgiveness or a relationship. I just want you to know I'm trying to be different. I can see that. Your daughter, Grace, she's beautiful. You've seen her? No. Mom posts about her sometimes, on Facebook. I'm not allowed to contact family directly, but I can see her posts. I hadn't known Mom was posting about Grace. We'd spoken maybe 3 times since Grace was born. Stilted, awkward conversations where neither of us mentioned Bree. Mom hasn't told me she's posting. She probably doesn't want you to know I'm watching, but I wanted, Bree's voice cracked. I wanted to see what I gave up, what I could have had if I'd been a better person. Something in my chest loosened, just a fraction. Do you want to meet her? Someday, I mean. When your parole officer says it's okay. Bree's eyes went wide. You'd let me do that? I'd think about it. If you keep doing the work. Why? Because she should know her aunt. The real one. Not the person you were, but the person you're becoming. Bree started crying right there in the produce section. I don't deserve that. Probably not. But Grace deserves to have family who care about her. And maybe, I took a breath, maybe we both deserve a second chance at being sisters. We didn't hug. We weren't there yet. But we exchanged numbers. Real ones this time. Don't make me regret this, I said. I won't. I promise. I pushed my cart toward the checkout, and Bree went back to her apples. It wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't even really an ending. It was just a moment. A possibility. a crack in the wall we'd built between us. Whether anything would grow there remained to be seen, but for the first time in years, I felt something other than anger when I thought about my sister. I felt hope. 3 months later, Bree's parole officer approved supervised visits. We met at a park. Bree brought a gift for Grace, a stuffed rabbit she'd made in one of her rehabilitation classes. It was a little lopsided, but Grace loved it immediately. "She's perfect," Bree whispered, watching Grace clutch the rabbit. "She's teething and hasn't slept through the night in 2 weeks," I said honestly. "But yeah, she's perfect." We sat on a bench while Grace played on a blanket between us. "I've been seeing a therapist," Bree said suddenly, "for the past year. Court mandated at first, but now I go on my own. That's good. She says I have," Bree paused like the words were hard, "narcissistic tendencies and deep-rooted insecurity from always comparing myself to you. Mom and Dad didn't help." "No, they didn't." Bree picked at her nail polish. "Remember how they used to make us compete? For everything? Grades, boys, even Christmas presents. Who got the better gift meant who was the better daughter that year. I'd forgotten about that. Or maybe I'd tried to forget. I remember. I thought if I could just win once, just beat you at something important, then maybe I'd feel," she shrugged. "I don't know. Whole, I guess." "Did it work?" "No, it just made everything worse." She looked at me. "I'm sorry for all of it. The venue, Clayton, the identity theft, trying to destroy your life because I couldn't handle my own." I watched Grace grab at a dandelion, her tiny fingers closing around the stem. "I'm sorry too." "For what?" "You didn't do anything wrong. For not seeing how much you were struggling. For not being the sister you needed. That wasn't your job." "Maybe not. But we were sisters. We should have been on the same team." Bree smiled, sad and small. "We can't go back." "No. But we can go forward." It wasn't easy. There were setbacks. Moments when old patterns tried to reassert themselves. Like the time Bree mentioned she was thinking about going back to school, and my first instinct was to list all the reasons it might not work out. Old habits, trying to keep her small so I could feel big. I caught myself, apologized, told her I thought school was a great idea. She applied to community college the next week, or the time I invited her to Grace's first birthday party, and she showed up with a gift that was clearly more expensive than she could afford, trying to prove something. I pulled her aside, gently told her that Grace didn't need expensive toys. She needed an aunt who was present and stable. Bree returned the toy the next day and got Grace a book instead. We were learning, both of us, how to be sisters without the competition, how to exist in each other's lives without the toxicity. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Mom and Dad never quite understood. They kept waiting for me to come to my senses and cut Bree off completely. When I didn't, they started pulling away from both of us. Dad still blamed me for the job issues he'd had after Clayton's family cut ties. Mom still thought I should have handled everything privately, kept it in the family. "You aired our dirty laundry," she said during one tense phone call. "Everyone knows now. About Bree. About us." "Good," I said. "Maybe it needed to be aired." She hung up on me. "Trevor wasn't sure about the reconciliation at first. She tried to frame you for federal crimes," he pointed out. "That's not something you just get over." "I'm not getting over it. I'm moving through it." "What's the difference?" "Getting over it means pretending it never happened. Moving through it means acknowledging it happened and choosing what comes next." He thought about that. "Okay, but if she hurts you again, then I'll deal with it. But I can't live my whole life afraid of what she might do. That's no way to live." Grace turned 2, then 3. Bree came to every birthday party, every Christmas. She became a constant, steady presence. Not the sister I'd had growing up, but something better, something earned. She finished her associate's degree, got a job at a nonprofit that helped formerly incarcerated women rebuild their lives. She was good at it, really good. She understood their struggles in a way that people who hadn't lived it never could. "I think I found my purpose," she told me one day. We were having coffee while Grace was at preschool, helping other women not make the mistakes I made. "You're doing important work. I'm doing the work I should have done years ago. On myself, I mean." She stirred her coffee. "My therapist says I'm finally learning to measure success by my own standards, instead of comparing myself to everyone else." "How's that going?" "Hard, but better." She smiled. "I celebrated 6 months at my job yesterday. In the past, I would have immediately thought about how you've had your job for 5 years, how I'm still behind. But this time, I just celebrated the 6 months. Because 6 months is an accomplishment for me, regardless of what anyone else is doing. I'm proud of you." Her eyes got misty. "That means a lot. We'd rebuilt something. Not what we'd lost, because that was gone forever, but something new, something that felt more honest." Then Mom got sick. The call came from Dad. "Your mother has cancer, stage 3. She starts treatment next week. I'll be there. Will you?" His voice was bitter. "You've barely spoken to us in 5 years. She's my mother. Of course I'll be there." Bree and I went together. Mom's face when she saw us walk in side by side was complicated. Surprise, relief, maybe a little fear. "Both of you came," she said weakly. "Of course we did," I said. We sat on either side of her hospital bed. Bree took her left hand. I took her right. "We're here, Mom," Bree said softly. "Whatever you need." Mom started crying. "I'm so sorry for all of it. For pitting you against each other. For not protecting you. For caring more about what people thought than what you needed. Mom, no, let me say this." She looked at both of us. I was a terrible mother. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I did it anyway because that's how I was raised. And I told myself you'd both be fine, that the competition would make you stronger. It almost destroyed us, I said quietly. I know, and I have to live with that. She squeezed our hands, but seeing you two together now, working through it, being there for each other, that's not because of me, that's despite me. Bree and I looked at each other across the hospital bed. We almost didn't make it, Bree said. It was really close, but we did, I added. And we're going to be here for you, both of us. Mom's treatment was brutal. 6 months of chemotherapy, surgery, radiation. Bree and I split the caregiving duties. I handled weekdays. Bree handled weekends. Dad tried to help, but he was falling apart. After 40 years of marriage, he couldn't imagine life without Mom. I don't know how to do this, he admitted one night. We were all at the hospital. Mom was sleeping. I don't know how to be strong for her. Then don't be strong, Bree said. Be present. That's all she needs. It was strange, seeing Dad vulnerable. He'd always been this distant, authoritative figure. Now he was just a scared man watching his wife fight for her life. I'm sorry, he said suddenly, to both of you, for how I raised you, for the things I said when he couldn't finish. We know, I said, and we're here anyway. Mom survived. After 8 months of hell, she went into remission. When the doctor gave us the news, Bree and I grabbed each other and sobbed. Years of baggage, and in that moment, we were just two sisters grateful their mother was going to live. The experience changed things. Mom started family therapy with Dad. She called to apologize, really apologize, for specific things she'd done. She acknowledged the damage, took responsibility. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. Dad took early retirement, spent his time volunteering and trying to rebuild his relationship with both of us. I missed so much, he said once. Your whole lives, I was working or worried about status, and I missed the actual important things. Grace turned 5. She adored her Aunt Bree, didn't know the complicated history, just knew that Aunt Bree taught her how to paint and always remembered her favorite snacks. Why don't Grandma and Grandpa like Aunt Bree? She asked once. They do like her, I said carefully. It's complicated. Why? How do you explain to a 5-year-old that people can hurt each other and still love each other? That families are messy and healing takes time? Because grown-ups make mistakes sometimes. But we're working on it. Good. I love Aunt Bree. Me too, baby. Bree met someone. His name was Owen. He worked at the nonprofit with her. He knew her whole story and loved her anyway. He sees me, she told me. Not who I was. Not who I'm trying to be. Just me, right now. And he loves that person. That's beautiful. I never thought I'd have this. A real relationship. One that's not based on what I can get from someone. They got engaged a year later. Small ceremony. Just close friends and family. Bree asked me to be her maid of honor. I cried when she asked. Are you sure? You're my sister. Who else would I ask? The wedding was simple. Beautiful. Nothing like the elaborate show she'd planned with Clayton. This was real. Honest. Two people who'd both survived hard things, choosing each other. When Bree walked down the aisle, I was crying. So was Mom. So was Dad. We were a family, broken and rebuilt. Scarred, but healing. At the reception, Bree pulled me aside. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me. Even when you should have. Even when I gave you every reason to. She hugged me tight. You saved my life. You know that, right? You saved your own life. I just didn't stop you from doing it. Same thing. Not even close. She laughed. Okay, fine. But still, thank you. I watched her dance with Owen. Watched her laugh. Really laugh. Not the calculated laugh she used to use to manipulate people. Real joy. She'd found herself. The real Bree. The one who'd been buried under layers of insecurity and competition. I was seeing her for the first time, and she was wonderful. Life moved forward. Trevor got promoted. I went back to work part-time. We had a second child, a boy, named him after Trevor's father. Bree and Owen bought a house 3 streets over. Grace was thrilled to have her aunt so close. We spent holidays together, had Sunday dinners, became the family we should have been all along. Mom and Dad slowly integrated back into our lives. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments of tension, old wounds that ached in bad weather. But we were trying, all of us. One evening, Bree and I were sitting on my porch. Kids were playing in the yard. Owen and Trevor were grilling. Mom and Dad were arguing good-naturedly about how to make potato salad. Can I tell you something? Bree said. Always. Sometimes I think about that night, when I came to your apartment with those fake documents. And I wonder what would have happened if Clayton hadn't helped you. I don't know. I think I would have destroyed you. Completely. And then I would have hated myself for it. But I still would have done it. She was quiet for a moment. I was that broken. But you're not anymore. No. But I could be again. That's what scares me. Like it's just waiting under the surface. You think I don't worry about that too? I asked. That I'll turn back into the person who was so desperate to win that I couldn't see my own sister drowning. You were never that person. Yes, I was. I was so focused on being successful, being perfect, that I never stopped to see how much you were hurting. I knew Mom and Dad compared us. I knew it was hurting you, but I liked winning, so I didn't say anything. That's not the same as what I did. Maybe not. But it wasn't innocent either. We watched our families, the life we'd built. We can't go back, Bree said. No, but we can keep going forward. Together. She reached over and took my hand. Together. Years passed. Grace graduated elementary school, started middle school, Our son started kindergarten. Bree and Owen had a daughter, named her Hope. When Bree told me the name, I understood. Hope for the future she was building. Hope for breaking the cycle. Hope for who she was becoming. Mom's cancer came back. We fought it again. This time we were all there. All of us. Together. She survived again. I'm going to outlive all of you out of pure stubbornness, she joked. We believed her. Dad started a foundation for families affected by toxic competition and narcissistic parenting. I want to help other families not make our mistakes, he said. It was his way of making amends. We supported him. On Grace's 13th birthday, she asked me about the story, the real story. I heard Grandma and Grandpa talking, she said, about how you and Aunt Bree used to hate each other. Is that true? Trevor and I looked at each other. We'd known this conversation was coming. Yes, I said. It's true. What happened? I told her. Not all of it. She was 13, not 30. But enough. The competition, the wedding venue, the betrayal, the identity theft, the prison time, the reconciliation. We hurt each other, I finished, really badly, and we almost never recovered. But we chose to try, and that made all the difference. Were you scared to let her back in? Terrified. Then why did you do it? Because she's my sister, and people can change. Not always, but sometimes. And when they do, they deserve a chance to show it. Grace thought about this. I'm glad you gave her a chance. Aunt Bree is awesome. She is now, but it took a lot of work from both of us. I won't ever let anyone make me compete with my cousin, Grace said firmly. When Hope and I are older, we're going to be friends. Real friends. Good. That's exactly how it should be. I watched Grace run off to find Hope. They were playing with dolls in the backyard. No competition, no comparison, just two cousins who loved each other. Bree caught my eye. She was watching them too. We smiled at each other. This was what we'd broken the cycle for, so the next generation wouldn't carry our scars. Life continued. We had good days and bad days, moments of friction when old patterns tried to emerge, but we'd built something strong enough to weather it. We'd built trust, real trust, the kind that comes from surviving the worst and choosing each other anyway. On my 40th birthday, Bree gave me a gift, a photo album. Inside were pictures spanning our whole lives. The early years when we were still innocent, the middle years when we barely spoke, the later years when we rebuilt, the now years when we were thriving. The last page had a single photo, Bree and me, arms around each other, both of us laughing. Below it, she'd written, "We lost years, we lost innocence, we lost the easy love of childhood, but we found something better. We found the hard love of choice, and that's worth everything." I hugged her, hard. I love you too. It wasn't the ending I'd imagined when this all started. When Bree tried to steal my wedding venue, when she framed me for identity theft, when she went to prison, I'd imagined revenge, I'd imagined distance, I'd imagined a life where she didn't exist. But this was better than revenge. This was redemption, for both of us. We'd both been broken, we'd both been toxic, and we'd both done the work to become something better. Together, we'd become the sisters we were always meant to be. The wedding venue where all this started? It burned down 3 years after my original wedding date. Insurance fraud, they said. The owner was in deep debt. I read about it in the paper and felt nothing. That place, that date, that version of myself, it all felt like another lifetime. Because it was. I wasn't the woman who'd fought over a venue anymore. I was the woman who'd learned that some battles aren't worth winning, that sometimes losing everything is the only way to find what really matters. And what really mattered was sitting in my living room right now. Trevor reading to our kids, Bree and Owen laughing over wine, Mom and Dad playing cards at the kitchen table. This was my victory. Not a perfect wedding in a rustic barn, but an imperfect, beautiful life built on honesty and second chances. Bree caught me staring and raised her wine glass. I raised mine back. We didn't need words. We both knew what we were toasting to survival, to redemption, to the long, hard road that had brought us here, and to every choice we'd made along the way that led us to this moment. Together, finally together.